Hi and welcome to the third episode of The Fifth Chair. My name is Dr. Dan and I'm so glad you've taken the time to tune in as we review the third season of The Voice Australia. In episode 3 we'll be reviewing the final weeks of the Blind Auditions. It's been a grueling 3 weeks with 10 shows already behind us. Of course, we haven't been able to review each and every performance, but I hope I've been able to provide some professional commentary on a range of performers and their 90 seconds of fame. As we continue into the rest of the season, allow me to invite your interaction and feedback through the Djarts Facebook page. Firstly, like the page, and then let me know what you think of the Fifth Chair. You might also want to let me know which performances you'd like me to comment on in the coming rounds. I'd love to hear from you. The final week of the Blind Auditions kicked off with Talia to Bone's performance of Aretha Franklin's Think. Now, before I go any further and make my comments, I want to ask you first to listen to the 1968 original version by the Queen of Soul herself. Here's Aretha Franklin singing Think. Now, click link 2 and listen to Talia to Bone sing the same song, albeit a shorter arrangement. Now, tell me, what am I missing? Tell me how Talia didn't receive a single chair turn. Of course, no one compares to the Queen of Soul, but this 17-year-old from Melbourne did a pretty good job. I don't want to find myself being disrespectful to the other contestants that have made it through by naming names, but Talia's performance, both aesthetically and technically, was a head and shoulders above at least half of the successful auditionees that we've heard during the blind audition rounds. Yes, the tone at times was narrow, and yes, at times her pitch was a little wayward, but generally, Talia sang this song with a clean, consistent, sustainable tone across what is a very difficult piece. And her stage performance was energised and engaging, unlike many of the performances we've seen get through so far, which at times, let's be honest, have been nervous, introverted and lacking any stage presence. Again, I'm not saying Talia's performance was perfect, it wasn't, but what I do want to stress as we continue on into the coming weeks is that we need to remember that many of the best voices Australia has to offer, despite what the TV ads might be telling us, have either not made it through the blind audition rounds or simply didn't audition to start with. Monday night's performances were a mixed bag. Poor intonation seemed to be the running theme throughout. We're sure to talk more about singing in tune in coming weeks, so I'll keep that powder dry. Instead, I want to speak to an important technical truth. Stated simply, classical voice training should not be used to sing contemporary music. Many people still believe that if you want to sing, then you have to have classical singing lessons. This misunderstanding may have held true until the 1950s, but once rock and roll came along and began its evolutionary journey, classical tuition simply hasn't stacked up. If you want to sing contemporary songs, then you need contemporary vocal instruction. In order to illustrate my point, have a quick listen to Laura-Leigh Smith's performance of Reflection. Laura-Leigh's performance sounded great until her voice needed to lift in range and dynamic. Did you detect that small buzz in her sound? That buzz is called constriction, and it's caused by the vocal folds having to work under too much pressure, air pressure. If the singer, in this case Laura-Leigh, doesn't learn to reduce the breath pressure, the vocal folds will continue to work way too hard for the sound. Vocal fold constriction leads to wear and tear, and at worst can cause vocal damage, including nodules and vocal fold hemorrhage. Laura-Leigh's heightened breath pressure levels have almost certainly been developed under classical instruction. If Laura-Leigh was singing classical repertoire, this wouldn't be a problem. But when you want to cover a song that Christina Aguilera has made famous, you'd better have a voice that is mechanically set up to sing contemporary material. If you'd like to learn more about this subject, then click on my article, Classical and Contemporary, Can You Do Both? I think I may have already given away the punchline, but have a read anyway. Breath pressure is not the only thing that differentiates skilled contemporary vocals from equally skilled classical singing. Another distinguishing feature is the muscular balance of the voice. We haven't got time to unpack voice registration in detail right now, but suffice to say, a classically trained voice will generally be orientated to a length and a dominant upper register sound. Have a listen to Elise Baker sing Safe and Sound by Taylor Swift. Okay, now before going any further, allow me to state that I thought Elise did a really nice job of this. You've only got to listen to the original version to hear that Elise has emulated the phrasing and general tone beautifully. This is an example of great song choice for her particular voice. Having said that, Elise's profile on the Voice Australia website states that she is classically trained and that she performs with the Hillsong Church in their Youth Alive band. I happen to know a little bit about contemporary worship singers, and Elise fits the mould almost to a T. Elise's classically trained voice is what we singing teachers call length and a dominant. Many contemporary worship singers find themselves opting for a length and a dominant or thin fold sound because it enables them to blend easier in backing vocals during worship sets. Unfortunately, it's this very same mechanistic setup that sees many contemporary worship singers travel the journey of needing to remediate their voices after vocal damage. The lighter, breathier quality really suits songs like Safe and Sound. It'll be interesting to see if Elise is able to sing with a more contemporary mechanistic setup in coming rounds. That is, a short and a dominant, full-bodied voice. My suspicion is her voice will struggle with rep that requires bigger dynamics. That being said, I wish her all the best as the competition continues. Well, the blind auditions have come to a close, and each of the 4 coaches have selected their teams. It's also time for me to complete my top 8 list. Like the 4 celebrity coaches, I'm having to choose from at least 4 voices that I believe could go much further in the contest. But I'm restricted to only choosing 2. So far, I have Kat Jade, Matt Verevis, Ellie O and Hayley Jensen, as well as Talia Gouge and Sabrina Batchon. After much deliberation, I'm rounding out Dr. Dan's 5th chair top 8 with Courtney Hale and Julian Simmons. Who of my top 8 will still be standing when the final rounds commence? Honestly, your guess is as good as mine. Finally, before we close with my pick of the week, I'd like to make a correction to the record. Last episode, I made the statement that Kylie was unable to distinguish whether Jess Barney was male or female vocalist. It was in fact Joel who couldn't distinguish the sex of the voice. It doesn't make any difference to the review, but I wanted to correct the mistake anyway. Sorry Kylie, I'll endeavour to be more careful with my scripting in future episodes. So now for my pick of the week. I've chosen this performance for his smooth character and feel. Sadly girls, Julian Simmons is a taken man, having gotten married only a matter of months ago. But I'm sure you'll enjoy listening to his performance of Justin Timberlake's Suit and Tie. There's a reason why Justin made it into my top 8. Until next week, when the competitors will be knocking each other off in the battle rounds, I'm Dr. Dan. Sing well.